if you are a business owner or an employee, especially a small business, wondering exactly what all the government guidelines mean for you and your business. I mean, the word furlough, be honest, had you ever heard the word furlough until about 2-3 weeks ago? And now it seems that people are talking about it every single day. People have lots of questions about how the restrictions are going to affect them. So Nikki Jolly is with us, founder and managing director of a Darlington-based HR company called HR2Day, has even written to the business secretary urging the government to make the guidelines on furlough clearer. Thanks to Nikki for joining me this morning. How are you? How's everyone in the family, first of all? You good?
We're all fantastic, absolutely, thank you.
And I understand you have lots of people asking you questions. I can imagine you're very busy, so you've actually now started supplying a once a week free Q&A session. Where can people access that?
We are, yes. We're helping wherever we can, and people who don't have regular support. So we advertise them on our LinkedIn page on HR Today Limited UK, and we put everything up there. They're generally on a Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So we've just done one this morning, and we had lots of different businesses on, just asking general questions, specific questions, and we just support where we can. It's just on a Zoom, so people dial in. You can have your camera on or not. It depends how shy you are.
And what you're wearing.
What you're wearing, exactly. Pyjamas at the bottom, yeah, we all know that.
Right then, Nikki, let's try and get some of these questions answered this morning. Had a word with John on social media. He wants to know about furlough. He's a painter decorator. He's incredibly worried because there's things being, it's not till June, I think, it's coming in. So his question is, how is the furlough scheme going to be implemented? My payroll guy has been looking into this since it was announced, and he still can't figure it out as such as to how to get the funds. Also, my son's national insurance and tax is due in May. Do I still have to pay that? Lots of questions. Let's start with furlough, first of all. What do you know about furlough, and what does it even mean for those who aren't quite sure yet?
Okay, so furlough's something the government have brought out, that they will pay 80% of people's salary as long as they don't work in your business. So it was brought out due to the pandemic crisis of COVID-19, and the government realised they needed to send people home, put people into isolation. They realised businesses couldn't afford to just keep paying people, and people couldn't afford to stay at home with no money whatsoever. So the government are funding and supporting 80% of people's wages as long as you were on PAYE. So you get a pay slip and you're paid either weekly or monthly from your company, and you pay tax and NI, and you were employed on or before the 28th of February. So you had to be on payroll on the 28th of February this year for your company to be able to be eligible to qualify for furlough.
But you can understand, that explanation was very clear, but even hearing you explain it, it's still confusing. So you can understand why people are confused about how the system works.
Yes, and the reality is the government haven't paid anything yet. They will be releasing a portal, we believe on the 21st or 22nd of April this month. They did say that they anticipate companies receiving March's money in April. So for me, that doesn't leave a lot of time if they're not going to release the portal until the 21st of April. My concern about the portal is the whole nation are going to be trying to log on to that portal. And my concern is how effective and efficient it will be initially when it's bombarded.
My goodness, right. So that portal will be to, access the funds or to find out information?
Both, we believe.
Both.
It'll be with the HMRC, and it will have information of how you make your claim, but also how you claim as well.
What do you know about national insurance contributions and tax? John, they're asking about it's due in May. Do I still have to pay that?
Okay, so there is a delay on corporation tax. You can request for that to be delayed if you're due to pay corporation tax. You can also delay your VAT return till next year. So again, you have to ask for these things. My payroll provider actually emailed me this month and said that I could ring HMRC and ask for a deferral on my NI PAYE element that I pay. Now, I chose not to this month, but I do believe there is some contingency there with HMRC for companies to defer payments.
My goodness, is your life just non-stop acronyms? Is that what it is?
We've never been this busy, honestly.
It's just acronyms. You're talking about the NI and the HRMC and the
No.
PAYE and the... Whew. Right, okay. Another question on furlough. Charlie in Hartlepool, if you are out on furlough and the government scheme ends, is it possible you could be made redundant if Works says that there's no work for you?
I have to apologise and say yes. So we've got people at the moment asking this very question. You've got business owners sat at home thinking, what does this look like when we come out of the end? What options have I got, and will my business still be intact? And the reality is, if you have a layoff clause in your contract or in your furlough agreement, so anybody furloughed should have an agreement that they've signed, they could either be laid off, which is a prevention of trying to stop redundancy. So it could mean that employers bring people back on a phased stage, or technically they could consult with you and make you redundant if the business isn't there for you to come back to. So if they're not getting the work in, they could start to consult with you and make you redundant.
Okay. Charlie in Hartlepool, I know that's probably not the answer you wanted,
No.
but it's there you go, the answer to your question. Thanks for that. That was interesting as well. So if you are on furlough, you should have an agreement you have signed.
Absolutely. The one thing the government has said is it can't be forced on people. It has to be by agreement, so the employers should be talking to people before they put them on furlough. We encourage open conversation anyway with all of your employees, but you should be discussing it with them, and they should be signing an agreement that you have to keep for 5 years at least to say that they've agreed to the terms of the furlough.
Now, I mentioned on social media this morning that I'm coming to work every morning because I'm in that class of key workers. So I'm in work. I'm on the road every morning, 7:30, and I've noticed over the past week the number of cars has definitely gone up. I would say it's even doubled in the past week of people on the roads. So I mentioned that on social media, and people said, "Well, look, people have got to go to work," but the government advice hasn't changed. But people are saying, look, you got to get a roof over your head. What if your employer says you have to go to work? Was a question that Mike put to me on social media. Best advice I could come up with was you might want to let your MP know if you know of a company that's doing that. Is that about right?
It's very difficult. Some companies are trying to keep skeleton staff, so they are trying to keep the business going. And certainly in construction and industry like that, they've not been told to close, but they do have to adhere to the 2-metre rule. They've got to do risk assessments. They've got to make sure that their workforce is safe. But not all businesses have to close. Some businesses can't work from home. Therefore, they do have to still bring employees in. I know some employees do think, that, well, I'm working and getting 100% of my salary, but everyone else is sat at home getting 80%. Believe you me, we're only in 3 weeks of furlough at the moment. If we get to 6 weeks, 12 weeks, people will be glad to be able to go somewhere as long as it's a safe environment. Be grateful and support your employers that they're keeping you in business. As long as you're safe, they're keeping you in business, and they will keep you with a job at the end of this. I do think how people behave now will come into factors when people are looking at if they do need to let staff go. Have they been reasonable and fair, or have they been awkward? If the employer is working and they shouldn't be, then absolutely report it to your MP. But look at why they're working and whether it is fair and reasonable to be still asking some of their employees to come into work.
And if they're on that list of essential businesses
Exactly.
that are meant to be
key
open,
things like that. Yeah.
My goodness, I have a feeling that we could probably talk about this for about 10 hours and still not get everything. So
I do genuinely work 10 to 12 hours a day talking about furlough. I would never have dreamed of this, but yes, it goes on forever, and there's lots of concerns. And if we can help in any way, we're here to alleviate fears, at least answer the questions that people have.
I mean, and if it's confusing for you and you work in HR, I mean, imagine us who don't. So other than your weekly free session, which is fabulous that you're offering, where else can people go for advice? Is it the government website?
Mainly the government website. They are updating it all the time. I have to say the government have been amazing through this. If you think what they've done would normally take decades to get through. So they've done a sterling job. I really do think they've been amazing. And there are still areas that aren't clear. So we're still seeking clarity on things. They are updating it. There was an update last week. And the government website is the first place that they put up any clarity or updates. And we share that on our LinkedIn page. As soon as we hear that that's out, we're sharing that with people. But yes, you can go to ACAS if you've got concerns and you're unsure. You can go to companies like myself. You can go to the government website. And there's lots of forums as well at the moment that you can connect to.
Nikki Jolly, founder and managing director of a Darlington-based HR company called HR2Day. Thank you very much for your time this morning.